Look, I can't help but think that now might be a good time for a little fire and ice.
Do not know it's never a good time for fire and ice.
What happens when you mix fire and ice?
Warm water, baby.
It's bubbling, baby. Warm water! Warm water!
It is time for a little fire and ice. Mike Tipton, Brandon the Iceman Cone. I was telling you guys about my voice. I hear it now, even more so as I'm talking.
A little bit, raspy.
It's a little hoarse today, but it's all right. I'll be okay. We are coming to you live from over here at Union Deafthouse, 730 Sunland Park Drive on the west side of El Paso at whatever the hell the new mall is called, because I forgot it once again. The Shops at Solana. Is that what it is? The Shops at Solana?
Shops at Solana.
That does not sound right.
No, it does not.
It'll
Sounds
always
like
be
a salon. It's like, where's the salon?
Not my mall.
Yeah, it's not my cup of tea. Come up with a better name.
But
It's like calling it the mall.
It is Cider Day. That is the $4. God damn, I sound like ass.
That's okay.
It is Cider Day.
good.
$4 ciders going on all day long today. Then you got the $2 build your own pizza as well. It is championship weekend in college football. We've got UT taking on Oklahoma State. We got them on the TVs up over here. UT already out to a 35-14 lead at the half. UT could have had more points in this, which is what makes it absolutely scary. And what I love about today's broadcast, Brandon, and what they're doing out here today is they have the TV on ESPN. They got a ton of the TVs on ESPN, minus the one that's showing, I think, what is the World Series of Poker over there, and a guy with a huge bald spot. And Emerald Lagasse on another one over here.
That's a funny thing to have.
Yes.
Sports, Emerald.
I mean,
in case you want to grease, Emerald.
You got cooking. You got to be able to be cooking, right?
Can't cook as good as you.
But, Brandon, I am all about the chaos. You know, Brandon, that I am all about the chaos. But before we get to what I see as a chaos scenario, we've got to talk about something that happened here in El Paso over just the last couple of weeks. It's been 2 weeks since you and I spoke.
Yeah.
The last time we spoke, I was going around saying UTEP should not fire Dana DeMille. UTEP ultimately does fire him following an absolute blowout by Liberty, the number 22 ranked team at the time, undefeated in Conference USA, taking on New Mexico State for the conference championship. What are your thoughts on UTEP moving away now from Dana DeMille and out now looking for a new coach?
Well, it was absolutely something that had to be done. I mean, I think that Coach Dibble was a nice guy, but unfortunately, nice guys don't always translate to being victorious coaches. And the bottom line is that they have been underachievers for years now. They've had rarely one good season throughout his tenure, and I consider a good season a season where you make a bowl game, and a bowl game that, ultimately they should have won the New Mexico Bowl, but they goofed as usual. What's new? And they look, last year should have made a bowl game. Didn't. They goofed in that UTSA game, the finale. This year, lost to teams they had no business losing to. The play calling was suspect. It was too vanilla. It was too plain. It should have been more outstanding considering the weapons that they had. Now Hinkins is leaving the program, understandably so. In my opinion, should have never really stayed here. I mean, if you're a great talent, you, especially a good talent like him, you take an opportunity to go to a Power 5 school if they're offering, because you'll get more playing time and more national television exposure. Here's the bottom line. I loved Demmel. I mean, he was a good guy. He really was a nice, genuine mensch of an individual. We're glad we got to have him on preseason and all that. Would have liked to have seen him in a Speedo, but ultimately that never happened. Especially would have liked to have seen you in a Speedo. That would have been a freaking sight and a half. But
anybody listening to that without any context is like, what the fuck is going on right
What's
now?
this moron talking about? Jeez, there's going to be that kind of party.
And that's why we have video on this podcast.
Yes, 100%.
But no, I mean, I feel bad for the guy. He's a good coach. He'll get a gig somewhere else, but it's time for a change. You got to make a change, man, because this program is going in the wrong direction. And NMSU, right direction, 180 degrees opposites. You got to try and improve, and they're just not improving. And you got to make a change.
I think the telling thing that we have here with UTEP watching now that Dana DeMille is gone, they're going to be searching for a new coach. I would have thought that we would have heard an announcement by now about just maybe even candidates, and we haven't even heard anything with that. Obviously, the season isn't over. I'm sure that they're eyeing someone who's probably, on a team that's going to go to a bowl. At least they better be eyeing somebody like that.
Your colleague Steve Kaplowitz and Adrian Broadus talked about a high school coach that applied for the coaching job at UTEP, and their analysis was we don't think this guy is ready. It's too big of a step from high school
Yeah,
all the way to
yeah,
UTEP.
and that's the thing that a lot of people don't realize, right? Like in high school, you're kind of given your roster. This is who's going to be there. You make your cut, you do your thing. In college, you have to go out and recruit, so you have to have some sort of a name, some sort of a plan, especially whenever you're going to D1, right? Yeah. D3, D2, maybe you can be the no-name guy. Rah rah. You're going to come to the school because you got no offers, right? Like that's kind of the way that it goes. But in D1, you have to be able to recruit. You have to have some sort of a name. How are you going to sell UTEP? Now, my thoughts on the whole thing, and it's going back to the last time we did a show as well, is I don't think this was a right move, at least not right now. You're paying $650,000 over the next year to someone not to coach that you could have used in your bank account to give to somebody else. Because now what's going to happen for this first year for this coach is UTEP's paying 2 coaches and one of them ain't coaching.
That's just the way of the world right now.
I mean, I get it, but you're talking about you're talking about a school that's always saying that they're strapped for money that they're not going to be able to afford a big name coach.
They are. There's no doubt. But
if you're paying $650,000 for someone not to be there,
they should stay with someone that's not going to win, though. I mean, they're not winning, and they're going to lose Hankins. Who else knows who's going to go in the transfer portal?
That's what I was going to say is those people are leaving because they wanted to play for that coach and that coach specifically.
I beg to differ. I think Hankins was kind of tired of losing, unfortunately. And the bottom line is he's a great talent, had a pretty good season, but now it's time for him to go out and go to a bigger program and really – he could have been a waste of talent here. And I hate to be so blunt, but I'm going to be blunt. When you're a waste of talent somewhere, you got to go somewhere where you're not going to be a waste of talent and you're going to be able to show that you can play at the next level. And he's not going to do that here. So
that sounds like you were reading part of like my biography or something. What's going on here?
It's deceptive. I don't know if that's the right word to use, but no, I mean, in all honesty, you can't risk another losing season, and it's just not working, man. His coaching style, calling the plays, it did not work this year, and it is what it is. You got to pay him $650K, which is a shitload of money for a program like UTEP. For a program, like a bigger one, like an Auburn or an Alabama, that's jump change, But
or for Texas A&M, $77.6 million.
I mean, that's okay. That's nothing, but for us, that's a lot of money. But you know what? It was time for a change. I don't know how accurate this is, but I also heard that maybe Coach Price's son, could be, in the mix. I mean, who knows?
But again, that's another high school coach that you're talking about making the step up.
But he was used to be on the staff,
okay,
though, so
I guess maybe like there's that
D1
connection,
college
right?
Experience,
yeah.
Yes.
But my whole thing with UTEP and the firing and everything like that goes back to what do you expect? Like even if Mike Price's son does become the coach, right, and he goes into UTEP. Is he turning this program around next year?
No. Tell you, it's hard.
The answer is no.
To make a one, especially with the players they have right now. You have Coach Dimmel's team, and how did they do this year?
I love that people have the optimism of it. I'm going to go with history and the 116 years of UTEP football that is historic. That shows me this team wins 3 games a damn year.
Right. Once in a while they win 6.
Yeah. So
maybe
for me,
8 if they're very lucky, or 10 games. Right.
So for me, like whenever you look at it through that context, he was doing what UTEP always did. So it's not like he's doing anything out of the ordinary. Now, whenever you look at New Mexico State and you're comparing UTEP to New Mexico State, I will go back to this 1,000 times. I always thought that UTEP should have gone the New Mexico State route, where you go independent. You get all those games. We've spoken about this a bunch of times, right? But you look at how that actually paid out for NMSU. They got their asses handed to them on a regular basis. And now whenever we look at this team, they're a 10-win team this year, 10-3.
Played for the CUSA title.
Yeah, playing
very impressive.
Yeah,
lost, but still lost by 10 points.
It's interesting to see, what New Mexico State can do. Now they're going to go to a bowl. And also, I want to give a shout out to New Mexico State. I was there last weekend. Thank you guys for your hospitality. It was really awesome being there. The football stadium always reminds me of a high school stadium.
Yeah,
it's so small.
I liked it better when they had grass. They have the AstroTurf now, but it's like hole 30, I think.
Around there.
But I mean, look, here's the situation. I mean, now they've made it easier than ever to become bowl eligible. To win 6 games, okay?
Well,
and with all the additional bowls, there's no reason why you can't at least make a bowl game every few years. And I know for a program like UTEP, it's asking a lot, but is it really asking that much, man? I mean, yes, for them it is apparently.
But I feel like that's the case for a lot of teams, right? Whenever you look at Nebraska, it's been 8 years for Nebraska. A perennial in the 90s and 80s national championship level team. It's been 8 years for them to make a bowl game. That means UTEP's made a bowl game more recently than Nebraska, right? You're looking at places like that are having hard times recruiting, and those are big names. What's UTEP going to do? especially if UTEP is now going to be in this place of musical coaches, the carousel of coaches, and everything that's going to go on with that. I think that some of these players want someone who is going to be there, because if you're going to that university, you want to play for that coach or the options of maybe even playing time or anything like that. I will say what I think really did in Dana DeMille is the fact that he didn't really recruit all that well. I don't know who his recruiters were, but whenever you look at like UTEP and the way that they're recruiting, it's so hard to sell that university. Because we've spoken about this, it's not just the football program. It's not just any of that. Whenever you look at the actual academia that UTEP has to deal with, it's
challenging.
Yeah, and then of course if you're a parent and the coach from UTEP comes over to you and you do some research and you just type in UTEP and you see one of the first things that comes up is this school's accreditation is in question.
Oh, well, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've always said the same thing, that it is an uphill battle recruiting here. It's easier to recruit in Las Cruces, 35 miles away, than it is here, which is ironic because that's a city of, a couple 100,000, if that, or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? It's really a smaller program. But, I mean, the point is that in the end, we have that competition of all those other great schools in this state. And, I mean, heck, even in New Mexico. I mean, where would you rather go, NMSU or UTEP? A program that's going to make bowl games or a program that's not? A program that's going to win 10 games or a program that's going to, be pitiful every year? Or even maybe a UNM or anybody that plays in a bigger conference that gives you more national television exposure.
Yeah.
And you're going to get now, albeit this year, they did have those Wednesday games. They had those ESPN 2 games in Florida and, Middle Tennessee, whatever.
I really like the ESPN Wednesday
it's exposure,
games.
man. You're getting something, right?
UTEP 2-1 on Wednesdays.
Hey, man, play every game on Wednesday from now on. Don't ever play a Saturday game again.
That's our best winning percentage they've ever had. It's 2-1.
Win a national championship that way.
Yeah, I'm with
but
it.
I mean, look, it's so impossible. I mean, it's easier said than done to recruit here, and I mean, we're armchair coaches. I get it, we really are, but in the end, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a continuous challenge, and we'll see how it works out. But it's not easy, though. That's for damn sure.
The one thing that I would want to, I guess, caution against and question for a lot of the fans that are out there, especially UTEP fans, right, is we dial back the expectations, right? UT, they can have expectations. New Mexico State now, you can have expectations. Mm-hmm. As far as UTEP goes, there should not be a whole bunch of expectation. Don't sit there and convince yourself that you think UTEP, of all places, is going to be able to get a big named head coach that's going to come in here and change the program around. I'm going to let you know this right now, Brandon. I feel confident saying this. As a matter of fact, I can probably give it a guarantee that over the next 10 years, UTEP will win, on average, 3 games a year. You know why? Because history tells me that. 116 years of history tells me that that's more or less what this team is going to win on average. Will they make a bowl? Maybe, right? But those bowl games are the outliers. How many bowl games have they been to in the last 6 decades? 5?
Well, let's see. We have the Humanitarian Bowl. We have the one in Houston. We have the GMAC
no-name
Bowl.
The
the couple in
the Idaho
Bowls.
Potato Bowl.
So what would we say?
The
7?
Toilet Bowl.
Yeah. The Cesspool Bowl.
Yeah. Well, so
but 7, maybe. 7. Am I right about that?
So that's what we want. We want 1 bowl game a decade.
Yeah.
Is that what we're asking for? Because I honestly feel like I don't know what to ask for UTEP anymore. Because I don't want to be the guy that's like, oh, UTEP's going to make a bowl. I cannot see them winning 6 games.
No. I mean, it's hard to anticipate they're going to win that many games. I mean, albeit you have optimism sometimes. I mean, people were picking them to win 7 or 8 games this year, right? They were. The optimism was through the roof because of what happened the previous year and even the year before that. It's just a damn shame because things were going in the right direction, but it just really shows how fast things can go south for a program like UTEP. I mean, you lose a few decent guys, you lose a few, bread and butter players, and all of a sudden you're stuck with the team that you have. And it's always a downhill battle with them. And despite playing in a very mediocre conference, I mean, look at how New Mexico State dominated that conference. They didn't win the conference, but I'll tell you what, I'll be darned if they don't win it next year, maybe.
And this is also is also Liberty's first year in the conference.
Yeah. I mean, what the hell's Liberty? It's like Liberty, give me Liberty. But I mean, it's impressive, with the way New Mexico and Coach Kill's not going to be there very long. Maybe another year, maybe 2, but he's going to get a much bigger job, I think, especially after what he's done.
And that's the thing that sucks for the mid-majors, right, is that you're going to lose out on those long-term coaches that kind of build you up. You had a coach, in my mind, at UTEP and Dana DeMille that could have been there a little bit longer. who knows, right? Because again, this stuff is going to ebb and flow in the group of 5. You have no idea what to expect from us. What I can say you can expect, though, is the major teams in college football. Your Alabamas, your Georgias, your Texases, your Michigans, these teams, right? You can expect them to go ahead and make the playoff. This year, the last year of the 14 playoff, Brandon.
Thank God.
I love it,
Thank
though.
God. I hate
no,
it. Can't
I love the 14
Can't
playoff
stand it. Get
because
rid of it forever.
I am all about the chaos.
So 8 teams next year, right? Is it 8 or 12?
I want to say it's 12,
Yeah,
which
thank
I think
God,
is too
finally.
much.
Oh,
That's
no,
way too
no,
much.
no. That's not way too much. That gives the mid majors a chance. That gives
They've
a
got-
team like the Boise States, who had
Jesus
never had a
Christ.
chance. You can't mean to tell me that you haven't seen some teams that go undefeated and get shit on every single year because they don't have a chance to make the playoff. Finally, they have a chance to make some noise and make the playoff. What's wrong with that? What's wrong with giving a little guy a chance?
The fact that whenever you give the little guy a chance, he's going to get his ass kicked.
Not always,
Yes,
man.
it is,
Was Boise
man.
State supposed? Of course, they were supposed to get their ass kicked by OU that one year and arguably the greatest
Okay,
college football game ever. The
I
Fiesta-Bowl.
will tell
That
you
was
this.
an amazing victory.
I
They
will
could have
give
won a
you this.
national championship that year.
The sun shines on a dog's ass every
Anyone
now
can
and
win the
again.
lottery, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's what it will create: the sun shining on a dog's ass.
Okay, so
Every several, who knows how many years?
every several how many years?
It'll be interesting. It'll make it better. It'll make it funner.
I can't bring it up right here in front of me, but if you can, please give me like the top 12 teams, like in college football, just like screenshot it or whatever. But what I want to know right now, Brandon, because like I said, I'm all about the chaos, and we're watching one of the games here that can cause a chaos theory. Okay, you got Texas, who is on track right now to win the Big 12 championship, as they are currently slapping around Oklahoma
Yeah, they're
State.
kicking 35-14.
They're
quarter.
beating the dog shit
Yeah,
out
they
of them.
are. But they're not going to get in the playoff.
No.
Even they should get in the playoff. I mean, they lost one game at an 11-1 record as a travesty to not make the playoff because they're as good as anybody.
So this is the AP top 25. Okay, Georgia at 1, 2 Michigan, 3 Washington, 4 Florida State, 5 Oregon, 6 Ohio State, 7 Texas, 8 Alabama, 9 Missouri, 10 Penn State, 11 Mississippi, 12 Oklahoma.
It's amazing. Imagine a playoff consisting of those programs.
Which one of those teams is a mid-major?
Well, there's not one. But then
So then we continue. LSU, Arizona, Louisville, Notre Dame. Those are your top 16. We have to go to Tulane at 17. Tulane at 17.
the Green Wave.
In order for us to finally get some sort of mid-wager. What I'm saying, Brandon, is it's going to be more of the same. It's going to be those Power 5 conference teams that are playing for a championship because the mid-majors cannot hold their own against these teams. What happened whenever Cincinnati was in the playoff?
They goofed.
They got their ass
They
kicked.
goofed.
It was not a good game.
But I mean, okay, here's my point, though. Like a Mizzou. My sister went to Mizzou, proud alum, right? You know, they've never won a national championship. They got close several years ago, and they goofed in the Big 12 title game, or I can't remember what. It was the SEC title. It was a title game. I think it was Big 12. But long story short, you know, they're a team that's really good, actually, and they're ranked 9th, so they would be in the playoff. I mean, it's a travesty that Texas, as good as they are, for the first time since 05, everybody and their brother thought they're going to be in the playoff. They're not going to be in the playoff. Ohio State not in there. I mean, I think a lot of people would rather see Ohio State over maybe like a Florida State or a UW, Washington. Obviously, you want to see Alabama in there. They're in there almost every year. You know, there's just a lot of teams. To me, you give me a top 12 playoff like that, I'm licking my chops, man. I'm like, every single team is deserving of being in. And then occasionally, who knows, maybe you have a Tulane that gets in the top 12 or a SMU that's in the top 12 or a James Madison. I mean, who knows, man?
I honestly feel like what it's going to do is it's going to create more separation from the Power 5 and the Group of 5. That's what I think is the ultimate what's going to happen here. Because if you are the SEC, any team in the SEC, I feel like, could be basically a title contender, right? And it's the same thing with the Big Ten. Whenever you look at those ones, whenever now we're looking at what's going to be happening with those conferences, we're losing those Power 5. We're going to get the Power 4 conferences now, right? I think it's just going to be more of the same, but you're putting more value on those teams with the wins that they have because they're not going to want to schedule each other in like those non-conference games. They're going to be just, let's feast on the Group of 5, which are going to kick the Group of 5's asses, and then they're going to go on their happy little way, and what's going to do is create more separation because we're going to see a Tulane maybe against a Penn State to start off a season maybe next year or something like that, where Penn State's just going to slap the hell out of them. And that's going to say that was the best Group of 5 team that we had. And what that's going to do is do what we see with college football as far as the playoff committee goes, and it's going to be the spur of the moment thing, oh, those teams can't play. Whenever you look at was it James Madison, the Dukes, right? Whenever you look at them, they got their first loss. Look how far they fell.
Yeah, I mean, because of strength of schedule and the conference they're in, and
But
the
that's
point
what
is
I'm
they're
saying.
still in the top
Is
25.
you would
know?
still have to have a phenomenal season to be one of the group of 5 teams to even crack that top 12.
But it
And
happens.
whenever you
Once in
do,
a blue moon, it
and
happens.
whenever you do, and let's say you are number 12 and you go up in your first playoff game against number 1 Georgia and you get murdered, guess what happens to the rest of the group of 5 for the next decade?
I mean, I understand your points. Okay, your points are taken well, and in the end, it's probably always going to be a Power 5 school, one of the big boys that ends up winning a national championship. I'm just saying, give the little guy a chance because it gives teams more incentive to be there, to be in the top 15. Because then you just know okay, great, you're going to play in a New Year's Day game or you're going to play in a New Year's Eve game as opposed to you're in the playoffs. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You're in the playoff. I mean, and like I said, to me, this year, more than any year, is a reason why they need to expand because there's no way on earth a team with 1 loss, Texas, and it was a loss to OU, who's also in the top 10, does not deserve to be in the top 4. And I get it. It's all about the strength of schedule. It's all about how many points you lost this game. It's all a bunch of, sticks and this and that. But the point is that it's silly that Texas isn't going to be in the playoff. I mean, they're so deserving this year.
So for me, I think you're jumping the gun here saying that Texas isn't going to make the playoff. I'm all about chaos theory, right? So I think Texas wins the Big 12 championship.
Right.
Alabama beats Georgia.
Okay.
How do you justify putting Alabama in over Texas whenever Texas won the head-to-head?
Well, that's a good point. And then they're going to say, well, Alabama beat Georgia, who's number 1. And then they're going to stick it up Texas. Gats. You understand? So, everybody's going to get screwed here because this is a very flawed system to only allow 4 teams.
Well,
To make you happy, what if they only had 8 teams? At least then somebody wouldn't get screwed.
Yeah, you see, and that's my thing, right? I think 12 is too much. 4, I agree, might be a little too little. 12 is just way too much because now it's
too little. It's ridiculous.
Well, and then what you're doing right now with those 12 is you are using in those games X amount of bowl games, which means for the group of 5, the available bowl games that are going to be there for them are no longer going to be those high-paying games that you might have been able to go to because now they're going to get the Boca Raton lawnmower game or whatever the hell it is that they've got, right? Like it's not any of those big name games that are going to have those payouts that can change the trajectory of a school for X amount of years, right? It's going to be those mid-level games. And then what I also think that's going to do, and me just being the type of out of the box thinker that I am, I think there's a great opportunity for a bowl like the Sun Bowl to basically go ahead and say to yourself, we want to have, because you're losing your affiliation with the Pac-12.
Yeah, that's.
We want to make this some sort of group of 5 championship type game where you can say you have the opportunity for that bowl game to maybe grow a little bit. But what that's doing whenever you go to these 12 teams going into the playoff is you're creating X amount of games that they have to play to get to the championship, sucking up X amount of bowl games, which is now giving a smaller amount of bowl games to the schools that need to have those bowl games in order to get on TV, in order to get those paid.
Bowl games. So how many bowl games are there?
There
now?
are 40.
Okay, so you're taking away what? About 8 bowl games, give or take. I mean, I'm terrible at math. 6 bowl games, 6 times 2 is 12. So you still have 30 something bowl games.
So you have those. So it's basically 3 rounds, right?
Right.
So 6,
10 bowl games.
Yeah.
Right?
So now you're losing again. So you lost a quarter of the bowl games that are available.
Bowl games. I mean, doesn't it seem like there's new ones every year?
I mean, they change names.
Where's the Mike Tipton Bowl? It's just the Tip Bowl.
I think the one that I'm the most excited about just to try to watch is the Pop-Tart Bowl.
Oh my God. Who doesn't love Pop-Tarts?
Because the winner of the Pop-Tart Bowl, the MVP gets to take a bite out of the actual mascot.
Which is a Pop-Tart, I'm assuming?
Well, yeah, I don't know.
I hope it's
going to be a human being.
I hope it's the brown sugar one. I like the brown sugar Pop-Tarts.
The brown sugar Pop-Tarts. What's your go-to Pop-Tart, David? Do you have one?
No.
Oh,
brown sugar.
Whatever
cherry
Pop-Tart is available, I'll sample.
He's like just any Pop-Tarts.
What's your favorite Pop-Tart? An
All
open one?
In the veins.
An open one. An open package is my favorite one.
For me, I like the blueberry ones. Like the blueberry and the cherry, strawberry. Like those ones.
Years,
yeah.
Man.
Oh,
the
dude,
little
I love
ones are good.
Pop-Tart.
The miniature ones are good.
I do like Pop-Tarts, but I will say this: toaster strudel, much more superior product.
I love me some strudel.
Much more superior product
for
toaster
strudel.
strudel.
You know? You had me at strudel. So yeah, I mean, Obviously we're going to agree to disagree like we always do on every single situation, but I'm excited to see what happens next year. It's about time. And, if nothing else, here's what it does. To me, it helps recruiting for some of these teams that are at least halfway decent, good enough to be in the top 25, because then you can say, hey, instead of, just playing your ass off and being a great player and making some garbage, crappy bowl game that no one cares about, at least you have a chance to be in the playoffs.
I see that list one more time.
Yeah, you got it. Here you go.
Right.
Love this song. Little Beatles. It's a good commercial, too. I don't know what it's about, but you got to love watching commercials, and you're like, what is this commercial about? Isn't it supposed to, have a point? It's cute, whatever. Great song, though.
What song is it? Oh, Yesterday.
There are places I remember. You ever been tobogganing? I went tobogganing in Chicago when I was a kid. I fell off so many times. It's like you get a sled and you go down a hill when it snows. And my stepdad, when I was a kid, say, hey, he had a tobogganing thing or a sled. And I used to go to the park in Chi and go down. And it's fun, man.
I saw that toboggan was like a beanie.
I think tobogganing is. Let me look at this. Can I change now? Let me see. What's tobogganing? I'm going to look it up.
I'm pretty sure it is sledding, but I always thought, isn't a toboggan like what you wear in your head?
Here we go. Toboggan. Yeah, see? Yeah.
Sled. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the effing desert.
Even a broken clock still right twice a day.
I grew up in the desert.
I grew up in the desert too. I lived there for 2 years as a kid.
How much sledding do you think I've done in my life in the desert on snow?
White sands?
Slide down a mountain with Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
That's
Anyways,
right.
Good times, my friend. Good times.
But no, I have my brother and I used to go up to Cloudcroft whenever it would snow. We'd go down and let the sleds and all that stuff.
Up there too.
We went snowboarding. The one time that we went snowboarding, it was terrifying.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Because for whatever reason, someone didn't like they have poles and stuff that stick out of the ground, and no one put a cone over it.
No.
And my brother, going however fast you're going down on these snowboards and stuff, hit it right on the side. You just saw his whole ankle just go over to the side like that. Fun drive going home.
No.
Poor Not for him. Oh,
yeah, that and ice skating. I used to try to ice skate, and my ankles, it would kill my ankles. I'd never ice skating again.
Because that's how you steer yourself. You're right. It's a real workout for
brutal
those.
On the ankles, man.
Never been ice skating.
Keep it. You can keep it. You would fall many times like I did.
I think the three of us need to go downtown to Winterfest.
in a Speedo.
Any chance you get to have a Speedo, you're down with it.
What are these guys doing? This is going to be that kind of party.
I'm saying the three of us will go downtown in a Speedo if you wish, which maybe we invite Dan and Dimmel, and we can go ice skating and we'll see how it goes. I can picture Dave over here being like a real Baryshnikov.
He wears an Eagles one. He's got an Eagles Speedo.
Yeah, there you go.
We have the Cowboys ones.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
you got the elephant thong, though.
I'm just thinking about that right now. That's a terrible thought, man.
I think it's a fun time.
You're a fun guy.
I would love to do that, honestly. I think it'd be fun.
I bet you would.
And it's counterintuitive. You have to walk as if you're drunk to ski properly on ice.
I like what Augustine said here. He said, so it's a simple decision. Make all the power conferences Division I. Which I'm kind of like, it kind of is that there's such a separation.
Yeah.
And going back on what you said, where you're like, these teams in the top 25, they can get a bowl. They already do that.
Yeah, I understand, but this is a lot different to play in some obscure bowl because some of them, despite being a top 25, play in bowls that are not great, unfortunately, because of their name. And let's face it, it's all about the names in these big bowl games. So if you tell me I can actually have something on the line to be, the top 12 or top 15, then it makes it more of an incentive. That's all. For everything, it makes your program makes more money. Your program gets more national exposure. Your program has a chance to play the biggest game of their life that they never had before. And lastly, it helps for recruiting, which really should be first because that's really where the money is right there. That's their bread and butter, recruiting.
So another one of my chaos theories here. What happens, Brandon, if Michigan loses and Florida State loses in their championship games? Michigan taking on Iowa, which more than likely won't be a loss. And then Florida State without their Heisman candidate quarterback taking on Louisville in the ACC championship game. That right there is the chaos theory that I want. I wanted Washington to lose yesterday so bad too because it would have opened so many doors for all these other teams to be entering in the conversation. I honestly feel like even if Texas wins, right? And as much as I've been saying this the whole time that I want Texas to win so they can create the chaos, you're 100% right on this. If Texas wins and Bama wins, Bama's getting into the bowl or getting into the playoff because they're Bama. Right? There's a history of absolute domination that they have, their recent history of absolute domination, and they would have beaten the number one team that has been on a 30-game win streak. So,
yeah, it's and you and I mean, I like Georgia. I'm glad you like Bama, but if anybody can pull off that game, it would be Bama, and that's why you got to love that game. Looking forward to it. It's at the 2:00 our time. Great SEC title game in the making, and yes, if Bama wins, it's going to screw everything up. If Bama wins, they're in. If Bama wins, they're in over Texas,
I want
undoubtedly.
That so bad.
But I still think Georgia's going to. Georgia back-to-back national champs. I don't see Georgia losing that game.
I mean, it's Bama.
Yeah, it's also Georgia.
Yeah,
and Georgia's been damn good the last couple of years, right? You know,
it's great seeing that basically the SEC has a stranglehold on everything.
Yep.
Maybe the SEC just needs to have their own championship and call that a national championship.
Yeah, they should.
All right. So we spoke a lot about college football going on with UTEP, going on with UT, everything that's going on here in the world of college football. I'm excited to see what happens, the way that the rest of these games play out today on Saturday as we're over here at Union Deafthouse, 730 Sunland Park Drive. We've got the 100 beers on tap. We're going to be tackling those. I'm on beer number 31 now. So we're going to do 31 through 33 today.
I hope it's better than a couple weeks ago. That one was that was gross.
I don't know how you people who love IPAs can drink that shit. It's effing disgusting. And you, by translation, are also effing disgusting if you put that stuff in your body. I'm just putting it out there that simply. But what I wanted to talk about, Brandon, was what we saw on Thursday, watching the Dallas Cowboys in a really good game. Too close for comfort at sometimes. The first time this year, trailing at home all season long, the Dallas Cowboys finally able to get that monkey off their back, beating a team with a winning record, which I think is just bullshit whenever you look at those things.
It really is. It really is.
What was your takeaway from that game? Because Dallas Cowboys have been playing lights out. Dak Prescott has been out of his mind. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that game that we saw on Thursday?
I'm gonna mention 3 key points. Number one, Dak Prescott is undoubtedly, in my eyes, an MVP. I mean, he's playing the best football of his career. For all those, including me, who were getting on his case last year, he needs to go. That's your quarterback. He's among the best in the NFL. McCarthy's, it's still iffy with him. What happens if he's going to stay or not? But clearly, this has worked well for them. Him calling the plays. Dak Prescott is the top 3 quarterback in the NFL right now. Okay. Secondly, obviously CD Lamb. That is an unbelievable connection. Prescott to Lamb. Their offense is crazy good. It's going to get you 400 yards a game. Defensively, there's obviously room for concern because Bly, he got beat multiple times, way too often. Got beat way too often, several times, but yet he had an interception again, which was the silver lining. Their defense has been a little suspect lately, which kind of worries me, especially with the big showdown against Philadelphia next week because they allowed 35 points to Seattle. But look, I'm going to be an optimist here and say you won a close game. You won a game that in the past you would probably have lost, even at home. Defensively, came through in the fourth quarter when they needed to. But here's the thing, though. To me, if you don't beat Philadelphia next week, despite winning 5 out of your last 6, despite being where you are, you have proven absolutely nothing to me because you got to be able to beat the elite teams in the NFL. If they can beat Philly next week, they probably can beat anybody. If they can't beat Philly and it's more of the same, even if you lose a 1-point game, you're not going to convince me that this is a Super Bowl contender.
Whenever we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, and I wanted to get to this point real quick because Augustine Pimentel commented on there. He's like, ha, 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 Dak Prescott, an elite quarterback. I'll get back to that in a second. But whenever we talk about the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm trying to figure out why people keep looking at them through these rose-colored lenses. Jalen Hurts is 1 turnover away from having the exact same amount of turnovers as Josh Allen.
Sure.
Right? We've been raking Josh Allen as you don't protect the ball, you turn the ball over a lot, blah, 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 right? The Philadelphia Eagles, for whatever reason, are getting this pass. And I get it, like Jason Kelsey, he's a great story. I love the dude, super charismatic. Jalen Hurts, again, phenomenal story, background, all that stuff. The team is made up of these guys that have phenomenal character. Why is this team not being scrutinized more? I get it, they're 10-1, but look at how their last wins have come. You had a massive drop in an end zone from Kansas City, which has to be one of the biggest blusters of all time, where it hits Marquez Valdez-Scantling in the hands. He juggles it 2 or 3 times. The exact same thing happens in Buffalo against the Eagles as well.
Wrong route, or else
Gabe Davis is wide open and just ran outside instead of running inside. Yeah. I've never seen a wide receiver be told whenever you blow by someone to run to the sideline. It was insane to see that. So we look at this team that's been super lucky on these things, especially the fact that they can rely on that defense that does generate turnovers, right? But whenever we look at Jalen Hurts, the guy turns the ball over a lot. I think what happened with the Dallas Cowboys over this last week was them looking ahead.
Possibly.
Nobody puts a lot of faith in Geno Smith, who looks like he's a World War I veteran. No one puts a lot of stake in him because he looks that way, right?
Funny.
No one's putting a lot of stake in this team, but Seattle is halfway. You sleep, they catch you. Dallas found
team,
that, right?
And they are. And look, here's why you got to give Philly a pass, okay? They're the best team in the NFL right now, and
but
whether or not
they could very easily
it doesn't
not
matter. The point is, they've found a way to win the closest games. Okay, they've beaten the best teams in the NFL. Okay, they've beaten one at Kansas City. They've hosted Buffalo, beat Buffalo. They play San Francisco. That's going to be a huge one. Everyone talked about how Philadelphia had the toughest schedule in the NFL. Dallas had the easiest schedule in the NFL. Well, arguably one of the. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens if Philadelphia could goof, or it gives Dallas that wiggle room to maybe win the division. I mean, look, I just think that even if you win sloppily, sloppy is not a word. Sloppy, you win sloppy, right? I just made up a word. You still win. In the NFL, it's hard to win, even against mediocre teams. I mean, it's the one league, the one professional sports league where honestly there are no bad wins. Even if you get, I mean, you know, Seattle, yeah, they're 6-6, but hey, man, if Dallas doesn't win the division, guess where they're going to go round one? Seattle. Yeah. You want to tell me a hard first round matchup at Seattle in January, the 12th man? The point is that it's going to be hard for them to win the division, in my opinion. Even if they beat Philadelphia, where do those other losses come from? But look, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Philadelphia first.
I honestly feel like Philadelphia is going to get lost this weekend.
Your mouth to God's ears. That'd be nice,
because
right?
San Francisco is on a whole different level. They've got a defensive line.
Pretty good too.
But they have a defensive line that is thriving on generating turnovers, especially since they're getting Chase Young, right? So, and that's what we saw. Again, that's the knock that you have on Jalen Hurts is, the guy is going to turn the ball over. He had 2 turnovers and 50 yards in the first half of that game against Buffalo. Make that any other quarterback, and we're talking so much shit about it, it's not even funny. 2 turnovers, 50 passing yards and a half. That's unacceptable for any quarterback. I don't care if it's Jalen Hurts. So now we look at it through this lens whenever you're looking at Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. I think Dallas is the better team. I don't know what it is about it. I feel like Dallas is ultimately the better team. And I know that people are out there laughing, and I've said it over the last couple of years, you cannot trade Dak Prescott. Mine was because of the contract and because who are you going to get to replace Dak Prescott? Because he is a solid damn quarterback, especially over the last couple of years.
And he's expanded his repertoire. He's found his running game. He's found other targets. It doesn't always have to be his optimal receiver.
Yeah. Whenever we look at all of the stats that make you say this guy's a good quarterback, Dak Prescott is either number 1 or in the top 3.
Sure.
The guy is playing at an MVP level, and you can hate on Dak Prescott, you can hate on the Cowboys all you want, but you cannot hate on the fact that this dude's performance over the last, 5 games, something around that line, 24 touchdown passes to 2 interceptions.
How many quality wins did the Cowboys have this year? Quality wins. I mean, against a team, besides the Seattle win,
this coming from the guy who more than 2 minutes ago, said every win is a good win.
It is.
So what's the difference between quality and good?
Because I'm talking about a win against a team like, for example, at Kansas City. Dallas, to me, doesn't really have that.
You have to win the games that are on your schedule.
I understand. You can't. Look, this last month is going to tell us everything about them.
They've played 3 teams that have a decent record. Okay. 3 teams, and they're 1-2 against those teams. They've also lost to Philadelphia.
Yes. They've lost to San Francisco. Any team that could win the Super Bowl this year, they've lost to. Have they not?
Yeah. Well, no, because Arizona's got no chance.
Right. You're right. Let's exclude that third loss. You're right. Last time I checked, they were out of it, right? But no.
I get what you're saying.
I'm just saying, dude. Yes, there's no bad win, and I mean that. I wholeheartedly mean that. But there's also the games you have to win to show you're that legitimate team. And if they beat Philadelphia on next Sunday night, they're that legitimate team. But if they don't, it's another loss.
Because they were able to win over Philly the first time, right?
No, they
No.
lost
Oh,
by.
they lost?
But the thing about that, so like whenever you talk about good wins and stuff, I also think about the fact that you got some bad losses, you also got some good losses. That loss to Philadelphia showed a lot of character with Dallas because the 2 losses before, whenever they got slapped in the mouth against Arizona, they gave
San
up. They just
Francisco
rolled
was a
over.
bad
When
game.
San Francisco slapped them in the mouth, they rolled over. Philadelphia came out, slapped them in the mouth. They actually had some fight. That was what I saw with this team over the last few weeks, right? Is this is who we are. We're going to do our best to establish who we are. But if we get in a dogfight, we'll throw punches with you. We're not just going to give up anymore like they did in the past.
Sure.
And that's what I want to see from this team going forward. That's all I want to see from this game in Philadelphia. I don't think Dallas is going to win the division because Philadelphia's already got themselves a nice bumper there, right? But I also feel like there's not a team in the NFL that would want to face the Dallas Cowboys at this moment if the playoffs were today. Nobody would want to face that team.
You know, they are gelling, and that's the thing. It's not how you start, it's how you finish, and they've been playing exceptionally well. And just to me, all I'm saying is that
win. Every win is good. What's a quality win?
I got your quality win right here. No, but I mean, look, we talk about a tough way to end the year against, Philly, then at Buffalo and at Miami.
But Buffalo's not.
Yeah, but it's still at Buffalo in friggin' December where you're going to freeze your tuchus off. So,
I think the one thing that
but Buffalo is not a great team.
But the only game that terrifies me that's left on the schedule is Philadelphia.
And Miami's
the reason why I'm not so
How about Detroit?
worried
That's a tough game.
too much. I guess that's tough, but it's not something that scares me. Like I can see Dallas, competing with it. I feel like if Dallas loses this game to Philadelphia, everyone's going to be like the season's over, right? And I feel like that's going to translate to their heads. Like that's a mental thing. You lost twice to your main division rival. Whenever I look at Miami, I look at what type of receivers have had major or given the Dallas Cowboys major issues. It's big receivers. DK Metcalf. That dude is a monster, by the way. Like how a guy that big is that strong and that fast. He was created in some sort of lab like Yao Ming. So I look at those receivers. And whenever I look at what the what Miami has, you got a 5'10" Tyreek Hill. You got a 6' Jalen Waddle. Those are smaller guys. And the thing that you have to have, and what's kind of given Dallas Cowboys issues, are quarterbacks with big arms. Big, strong arms. You can dime that thing in there. Tua doesn't have a strong arm. He's got the most accuracy I've ever seen of any quarterback. But if you're watching the film and you know where he's going to throw the ball, that's been his issue, is you can't go to the outside because he will be picked off. We have the guy that had set an NFL record for pick sixes, and you cannot do that. And the biggest weakness that Miami has is their offensive line, which is going up against Dallas' strength in that defensive line. So that game, to me, doesn't necessarily terrify me. I think the unknown about Detroit, because I think that's a really good team, but they also goof a lot, like you said, whenever they lost on Thanksgiving to the Packers of all teams.
Yeah.
And I get it. Jordan Love is doing a lot better now. Like he's improved incrementally, but that's a team that I still feel is like on the learning curve. Right, they're trying to find their identity. They're going through the learning pains, the growing pains, as we see a great play walking down the sideline.
Did you see him tiptoe there? That was cool, man.
Tight roping the sideline there for Texas as they get a touchdown.
Move I've ever seen in my life. 57-yard rush TD, and they got to show this again. That's going to be the highlight of the year. Look at this. So look
at the hole that he had right there. Speed, tiptoe.
Oh, that was
Look
great.
at that. Tight roping the sideline, man. Oh, wow. That's beautiful.
Wow.
Texas now on a, I guess, 41-14 lead. Is that what the score is?
Yeah, that's a great move, man.
That is.
To be able to stay in bounds, that was awesome.
My big ass would have just belly flopped on the outside. There's no way I'm able to keep that type of balance.
6 plays, 79 yards. 40, almost 42-14.
And that's another team that I think if they were, like, again, if they by some means make it to the college football playoff, that's not a team that many people want to face. That's a scary team.
It's going to be a damn shame.
And we got to see Arch Manning last week, too.
Yeah.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah.
Arch Manning. That's a name that I think Texas fans are going to love in the future.
Yep.
But going back over to what we were talking about with the Dallas Cowboys, the schedules and everything like that, right? Detroit, the unknown, that's kind of not something that I'm too scared about because I know that they're going through all the growing pains that a good team has to go through. Miami, not too scared of. I know it's an explosive offense, and it sounds like blasphemy saying that, but I feel like they match up very well with the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like these two teams match up very well, and they're going to throw punches, right? Like, it's going to be that kind of a game. It's going to be more or less what we saw from Seattle this game. I think it's going to be a super high-scoring game. Yeah. If you're betting, take the over on that game.
No doubt.
The one team that scares me is Philadelphia.
Sure.
Because, like you said, that's a super balanced team, and they find ways to win. They're ugly wins. I'm not a fan of how they win, but I've seen a bunch of games, at least 5 of them, where you can make a legitimate case that they could have lost that game, or they should have lost that game.
You just keep thinking they're going to lose, and they don't.
And they find a way, right? And of course, that's what we say is good teams do it.
I'm like, this is their chance. Buffalo's going to beat them. Buffalo doesn't beat them. But Buffalo's terrible in overtime, so it doesn't matter. Josh Allen can't win in overtime.
But look at that. Look at their last 3 games. The game against Dallas, right? You allowed Dallas to go all the way down to the 6-yard line, and Dallas being Dallas is going to do the stupid things that they do, which is just being the Dallas Cowboys and shit in the bed whenever it's any chance that they get.
Good point.
They get down to the 6-yard line with negligible time left, and they aren't able to punch it in. Kansas City, Valdez-Scantling, again, Patrick Mahomes could not have thrown a better pass. Like, nobody out there could have thrown a better pass. He juggles it, bobbles it, goes all over the place. Kansas City loses that game. And then Gabe Davis ran the wrong route, which how that guy is considered a number 1 wide receiver to me is insane, because he is the most disappointing player in fantasy, and I think in real life, your parents probably hate you too, my guy. That was mean. I'm sorry.
That was terrible.
But whenever like that's such an unforgivable way to lose that game, and they should have lost that game. Obviously, again, they found a way to win, blah, blah, blah. Good teams do all that good stuff. I'm just saying, this team is not as bulletproof as people are making them.
Sure. I mean, look, I agree. I mean, look, only in the respect that a close loss or a close win is a close win. I just feel that, if you look at the most clutch team this year, they have been the most clutch team. And I mean, that's the point, is that, even if you get ugly wins still equal W's in the end and still give you a division title and home field advantage throughout. But I know you keep looking at me. I love the look in your eyes. But what I'm trying to say about them is this, man. They always find a way to win. And that's the thing, is that they, in the end, it's all that counts is the W's in the game, right? It's where it sets you up. It gives you the only bye in the NFC or the AFC. It gives you that coveted division title. It gives you that first round
home field advantage.
Playoff game, home field advantage. I mean, Dallas doesn't play that well on grass for some reason. And imagine that other than Seattle, their road to the Super Bowl would all be through grass if they don't win the division, which isn't looking very likely right now. I mean, San Francisco, Philadelphia, all grass teams. And I don't know why they don't play as well on grass. I just don't, which to me is a stupid statistic, but it exists.
Can we talk about MetLife Field and how it's just taking everybody's Achilles this year?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they got to do something with that field. Was that 4 Achilles injuries that have happened on that field? And the majority of them season ending. We don't know about what's going to happen with Aaron Rodgers. He's walked it back a little bit, saying maybe he's not going to come back and play. I don't find a reason for him to come back and play.
What
I feel like he's going to
surface is MetLife Field?
Well, it's AstroTurf.
It's an AstroTurf.
It's a shitty surface.
But it's like the worst AstroTurf imaginable.
Yeah, it's like, remember that's that veteran stadium turf? Remember how bad that used
to be?
That
was carpet.
It was concrete, literally.
Yeah, it was carpet on top of concrete.
But why is their AstroTurf so bad is what I want to know.
Whatever their blend is what's got to be looked at. But there's something really wrong in that stadium there. But I mentioned it right now. Aaron Rodgers talked about maybe coming back. Now kind of walking it back. There's nothing for him to come back for. I would like to see, and I'm not an Aaron Rodgers guy. I think Aaron Rodgers is a huge turd. And that's being nice. But I would like to see him come up, because I don't want to see someone's career in that way, especially whenever you are considered one of the best quarterbacks of all time. Yeah. But whenever I look at what he's got in New York and the fact that he's got to play on that field again, it would leave a little bit of reservation to say this could possibly happen again, especially if it's not completely healed, because we don't know. There's so much mystery around the actual injury itself. Yeah. That we don't know.
They would actually invest in better turf then. I mean that, and then of course the whole Players Association.
But it's not just them; it's the Giants. Since they share that stadium, they've got to come up with it.
They would come up with something.
The Giants aren't having these injuries.
Daniel Jones. So I mean, didn't they lose? Did he?
I thought that was on the road.
Was it on the road?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyways, I mean, the point is that you need to somehow improve that turf. But I mean, I'm still a fan of what the Players Association says. Well, they convert all the fields to grass. I just don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. No, but it's a lot of money, and it's hard to maintain grass, and especially in a lot of domes and whatnot, which albeit a lot of the domes today are built where you can have natural sunlight, so which is a great way to build a stadium. But you do it like
Philadelphia or like Arizona and Las Vegas, where you wheel it out in the parking lot, let it get its
But I mean, a grass field is superior to an AstroTurf field any day of the week. Big fan of it.
You like natural grass?
I love grass. Did I ever tell you the one about the when they first built the Astrodome back in the 60s? They asked one of the Astros players what he thought of artificial grass or fake grass. You know what he said? I don't know. I've never smoked any.
Dude,
good one. You had us.
Hey, man, you set me up for that
was
shtick.
a good one.
I
That was a
couldn't
good
help it. Sorry.
I knew it was going that way too. I absolutely knew
That
it.
was my late great friend Smitty from Chicago used to tell me that joke when I was a kid, and I'm telling it 30 years later. So
There we go.
Must have
Look at
worked.
that.
Must have worked.
So currently, right now, we're watching the Big 12 championship game. It's in the third quarter, 42-14. Safe to say Texas has this in the bag, but we have seen some crazy stuff happen in college football history. Oh man, you got lucky that wasn't a pass interference or an interception at the same time. But I want the chaos, Brandon. I hope Texas gets this win. I hope Alabama gets the win. I also hope that Michigan loses and that Florida State loses as well, just because it keeps the conversation going. My biggest fear, and it's me being selfish, Brandon, is that with the 12-team expanded playoff, you don't get the chaos anymore.
I mean, you're still going to get chaos because there's always going to be, the decent teams, the outside teams looking in. And for me, the biggest chaos will be what happens if, that small opponent, that team that, the mid-major.
It'll never happen.
It'll happen. It'll happen. It's
not in a
happen
championship game.
It'll happen.
I want to
eventually.
see. I want to see where Oklahoma is ranked.
It's one game.
Whenever
It's one game. Anything can
Boise
happen
State
in one
did that, because I don't think Oklahoma was in the top 10 that year.
They were
But I'll
pretty
have to
good.
look it up.
They were pretty good.
I'll have to look it up. We'll see.
You want me
We'll
to
see
look it
what
up?
it comes. No, I'll do it later.
What was it, 05?
I have
It
no
was a
clue.
long time ago.
Yeah, it was. I know it was a Fiesta Bowl. That's all I remember. Is it was a
I wanna
Fiesta Bowl.
see. Let's see.
But we'll think about that coming up in a little bit.
Fiesta.
Okay, so what are your predictions for the Dallas Cowboys going forward for the rest of the season? Because this is our team. Daver, obviously the Philadelphia Eagles fan, sitting pretty over there with your 10-1 record or 11-1, whatever the hell it is now. We don't have to worry about anything. Must be nice to be on the top of the mountain.
In sports,
Number
anything
7,
can happen.
OU was ranked 7th that year.
In sports, anything can happen, especially
And number 9, and the Broncos, they were ranked 9th. So that to me, again, that's a team. And I look at a team like Boise State, who I've thought for so long has been deserving of maybe being in a playoff. That to me, a team like that would be more deserving than anybody of being in a playoff system. Because I mean, that year could have been a year they won a national championship, as an example.
Dave was talking to you. Just
Sorry.
buried it.
Sorry. Go ahead, Dave. My bad. Go ahead. It's because he had his mouth full,
Yeah. Of words and anything else I can find here at Union Deafthouse, and their food is terrific. But that's right. I mean, Philly's won, but they've won in some very close games, so I don't rule the Cowboys out. Anything can happen.
That's the unfortunate thing. That's what makes us love this damn sport. Is even though you think it's predictable, it's 100%.
I'm predicting. I think Dallas is going to win, and I say that because I just like the momentum. Momentum is a hell of a thing. You get momentum going, and don't let it go, because the way they're playing has been lights out, and they've beaten the teams they're supposed to. They finally beat a team with a winning record. And to me, if their defense steps up, I think they will against Philly. I think that's going to be Philly's first loss in God knows how long. And I think it's going to set Dallas on an interesting trajectory to maybe win the NFC East, but I still think it's a long shot at this point.
So I do think the Cowboys can get the win there, but what I would say is I want the Cowboys, and it sounds weird to say this, they need to get a loss somewhere between now and the end of the season. And it needs to be like one of those motivator type of losses, right? Where like you just get your ass handed to you.
Maybe at Buffalo.
Buffalo's not good.
Yeah, but it's at Buffalo.
I'm taking it all back. Like Buffalo's not good. I think Dallas is so much farther superior than anything Buffalo has at any position.
That Christmas Eve game against Miami.
Yeah,
that could be the game.
I mean, that might be it. I'm thinking maybe
Detroit,
Detroit, right? But
at the end of the year.
But I feel like Dallas needs to have one of those losses. You gotta get one of those good losses. No, they're not going to lose. No one's losing to Washington.
Not a good game.
Washington is such a disappointment. Washington and the Giants are such disappointments this year. It's not even hilarious.
Yeah.
Like I feel bad. It's like picking on the kid
and the
that
Giants
doesn't have a brain.
have really regressed after making the divisional round last year.
A lot of that also has to do with the fact that Daniel Jones is garbage. I can't believe they gave that much money to that guy.
They're schmucks.
It's proof.
Stupid is as stupid was.
You can be terrible at your job and get a raise.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. What a country.
I'm about to say, why am I hating that?
Oh, yeah, right. I was going to say, dude. Hey, man, I don't hate that. I love that, as a matter of fact.
All right, everybody, we're over here at Union Deafthouse, 730 Sunland Park Drive, in the parking lot of the Shops at Solana. That just doesn't sound well at all, but they're in the parking lot of what used to be Sunland Park Mall. It's Cider Day, so they got the $4 ciders. We also have the $2 build your own pizza. We ate a whole bunch of that right before we got on the show. And I know that didn't help my voice out any at all. They've also got the 100 beers on tap. I'm on beer number 31. We're going to see how that goes. Brandon, what you got? Anything that you want to say before we part? Any words of wisdom that you got for us?
I mean, I missed our show. I was out of town and had a good time, and we're back, and let's enjoy the rest of this year, huh?
So I think we got, 2 more shows
Yeah.
this year?
Yeah. That's
Wow,
it.
look at
Whoa,
that.
whoa.
It flew by.
Yeah.
My voice sounds like absolute dog shit.
Yeah, you look like dog shit too.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding.
What a
Sorry.
mean
Go.
thing to say.
Look at Destiny.
Jesus.
She had the look. That's why I love you. You're my best buddy.
All right, everybody, we thank you so much for tuning into the show. We will see you all next week.
Do we have fun or is it just me, huh?